Hello, and welcome to your delightful and fun guide to the end of the world. We're going to be learning how to play Doomlings, which, as it says right in the front, delightful card game for the end of the world. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to separate the Birth of Life card, which looks like this on the one side, looks like that on the other side. We'll talk about what that's all about later on. You want to separate the Birth of Life card and Catastrophe cards from the other Ages cards, which the Ages cards don't say Catastrophe on the top. These say Catastrophe, these do not. They both have Ages there on the back, so you know they're Ages card. So you want to separate the Catastrophes and the Birth of Life. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your normal Ages card, and you're going to shuffle it, and you're going to make 3 separate piles of 3 Ages each, face down. Don't look at them. Take the rest of them, move them to the side. Now you're going to take your Catastrophes that we separated from the Ages. You're going to shuffle this, and you're going to put one random one into each of the 3 piles of Ages cards. So now you should have 3 piles of Ages cards, each with 1 Catastrophe in there. Now you're going to take your 3 separate Ages piles of 4 cards, 3 of the normal Ages, 1 of the Catastrophe. You're going to stack them all together in the center of the table, and you're going to take your Birth of Life card and you're going to set it on top. Before we move on, I would just like to thank you for watching. And if you find the video helpful, consider subscribing and checking out the channel and seeing all the other great games you can learn how to play. Now, let's get back to whatever I was talking about. Now, each player is going to pick a gene pool card. It doesn't matter which one, just pick whatever color you like. The color doesn't really mean anything. But what you're going to do is you're going to take it, you're going to set it in front of you with the 5 facing up, like away from you. Now your gene pool is unique to you. This shows how many cards you should have in your hand to end your turn. You're going to turn it and flip it as your hand increases and decreases throughout the game from different cards effects, which we'll get into later. Now you're going to take your traits deck, which is all the cards that say traits on it, and you're going to shuffle this all up because you want to get all the colors all separated. And you're going to deal 5 of these to each player, and then you're going to set the rest in the middle of the table next to the Ages deck. Now the first player is the one to the left of the dealer. They will draw the Birth of Life card from the Ages deck and reveal it, and you'll just do as it says. You set your gene pool to 5, which it should already be at, and you'll play 1 trait each turn, stabilize to end your turn, which we'll get into in a second. So then starting with the first player, they'll take their turn, and then it'll go normal clockwise back to them, and then on their next turn, they'll flip the next Ages card over, and that'll continue until the end of the world. Now, different Ages have different around effects. Now, you all have to do the Age effect before the beginning of your turn, beginning of the round. Before the beginning of the round. Players cannot play red traits. There's some that affect you before you actually would be able to do anything. Now the Ages only last 1 round, because then beginning of the next round, once it gets back to the first person, they're going to draw another Age, and that's going to have a new effect for that round. Now, when you draw a Catastrophe, they have more effects, basically. So you would do the gene pool effect, so everybody gets -1 gene pool. So you're going to take your gene pool, say it's still at 5. You're going to flip it over to, where is it, 4? There's a 4. You flip it to 4, so now you'll have 4 cards in your hand when you stabilize, which we'll get into stabilizing later. And then you would just do the other effect, discard 1 card from your hand for every green trait in your trait pile. And everybody would do that effect. Now, the yellow effect, you only do that, this is the World's End effect. You only do that when it's the 3rd Catastrophe that is drawn from the Ages pile, because then that means the game's over. It's the end of the world, which we'll talk about in a minute. When you do draw a Catastrophe, the first player moves to the person to their left. That way you get a new person who goes first each time. Well, you get a Catastrophe. Real quick though. So the Catastrophe is like the end of an era, like they call it an era, whatever. So when you grab a Catastrophe, you can just, it says to start a new pile. This is to keep track of the number of Catastrophes, because once you get to the 3rd one, that's the end of the world. So just like you grab a Catastrophe, start a new pile, grab a Catastrophe, start a new pile, then you'll have the 3rd one, and that's the end of the world. So a finished game should look something like this. Now, actually taking a turn. Well, you're going to play 1 trait from your hand face up. That's how you get points. Now remember, you got to follow whatever the ages rule is. Like say this one is players cannot play red traits. So during this round where this age is out, you can't play red traits, but you can play any other kind of traits, but you can only play one. Of course, unless you play a card and it has an effect that allows you to do other things. Now, when you play a trait, some of them have effects. The text at the bottom of the card, like this one. Now, depending on different cards, they have different kinds of effects. They do different kind of things at different kind of times. So there are some of them that when you play them, you'll get to do the effect right away. Some of them are only affected by playing other cards or affect your opponent. You just read what it says, and it just literally go by what it says. Now, to stabilize, like we've talked about that a couple times, but we haven't said exactly what it is. It has to do with your gene pool, the 5. That's the number of cards you need in your hand to end your turn. To end your turn, you stabilize, which means you get your hand to 5. So you play a trait, now you have 4 cards in your hand. So to end your turn, you got to stabilize. So you draw a card, now you have 5 cards in your hand, so you're stabilized, so you end your turn. Now that also goes if you had some kind of effect that got you extra cards, say you have 6 cards in your hand, well now you have to go down to 5 in order to stabilize to end your turn, so you'd have to discard a card. Now, when you do draw your 3rd catastrophe, and it's the end of the world, then what do? Well, you do the gene pool effect and the normal age effect like you normally would. Then, in turn order, you'd go around and everybody would check all their traits to see if there's any world end effects, because then they do certain things at the end of the world. Then, you're going to resolve the world's end effect, which is the yellow one. It's always yellow on all the different cards, and they all help, do different things. Like this one's -1 for every green trait in your trait pile. So that means -1 to your points to, at the end of the game to see who wins. And now, scoring. So you're going to each go around and you're going to count the points on all your traits. But first, you're going to want to do your world's end effect. If that minuses any, like this one, -1 for every green trait in your trait pile. So each player would look at their tree pile. If they have any green, they'd -1 for each one they have. And then they'll go through all their cards and add up all their points. Which are these? This is let's say you have this card. And we'll ignore the fact that it's green. So this would give you 1 point. Now these count for 0. But a lot of the times they'll have an effect that allows them to get more points or give you more points somehow. And then of course there are ones with higher points like 3, 2, and there are certain ones that have like negative points, but then they have effects that can hurt your opponents, help you do different things, and so on and so forth. So again, the scoring. Do the world's end effect if it minuses or pluses anybody's points. Count all the points on your traits. Pluses, minuses. The little compass symbol is a 0. And then if there's any effects that give you pluses or minuses. And whoever has the most points wins. They win the end of the world. Now, let's say you have a tie. Well, you're each going to draw from the top of the deck and just add the face value point, and whoever's the highest wins. It doesn't say who draws first, but I would assume you would just do it in turn order. And congratulations! You have won the end of the world. If you won. Doomlings. Look at that. Look at that shiny box. Woo! Yeah, so that's Doomlings. It's really cool, really fun. It can seem kind of complicated and a lot at first, but I promise, you start playing it, you're going to get it right away. And by like the second round or second game even, you'll be flowing right through. You'll get all these strategies together. I can combo this card with that card and all kinds of crazy stuff you can do. It can get insane. It's a cool, fun game for up to 6 players, so it would be really good for a family game night. You want to find out about more games? That'd be great for your game night. You should check out this playlist. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future videos.